All right, Kevin, back with you with another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Craig Hewitt, and I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be a unique and really cool episode. First of all, Craig, welcome, man. Awesome to have you.
Hey, thanks so much. Awesome to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And, this is going to be unique because, Craig, you are infinitely familiar with the podcasting world. With your business, and we were talking right before we hit the record button, and you were like, dang, Kev, I wish we would have been recording that. And I'm like, you know what, I'll talk about this, and this is like the perfect episode to do this, because I don't normally talk about this, but running this podcast for the last year and a half, this has been absolutely, hands down, one of the most rewarding things I've done in my 27-year entrepreneurial career. And this podcast, for one, because Brad Costanzo was the guy who recommended that I do this, because he's like, Kev, he's like, for a guy like you who values relationships so much, it seems to me that running a podcast would be, you'd love that stuff, because you're just going to be talking with entrepreneurs. And I'm like, yeah, but man, the business world does not need another Me Too podcast. I was like, what am I going to talk about? And he's like, Kev, he said, you're going to talk with entrepreneurs about their most valuable relationships. And I'm like, ooh, man, now that sounds like a blast. And it absolutely was. And we have had so many conversations with such amazing entrepreneurs. So much stuff has come from hosting this podcast. And Craig, you and I met through Andrew, and I have never even met Andrew Ailman in person. I've been on his list for a while. I get a couple emails from him each week with, hey, here's some potential podcast guests. And that's how you and I met. And so, Andrew, another shout out to you, because I'm extremely grateful for you in my life, even though we've never met, And so with that, Craig, I'd like to just turn it over to you a little bit. This is going to be a lot of fun today, and just have you share a little bit about what you do, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work you guys do, and we'll just kind of start there.
Yeah. First of all, I love the story, because podcasting is all about relationships, right? Especially, I think B2B podcasting is just like the biggest networking opportunity for us all, right? It's a chance to meet really interesting people and get to know them on a really different level than we can even in the pre-COVID world, and maybe especially now, as we're still not kind of fully out of it. But it's like going to a conference and having the hallway track from your spare bedroom, every day if you want. Yeah. I totally love it, and that's the thing that gives me the most kind of pride. And what we do is we're facilitating folks making relationships and connections like this. So kudos to you for starting. Kudos to you for having a really original concept for the show like that. I've never heard of a show like this, because it is all about relationships, and the fact that that's kind of your driver and your passion, it sounds like, and the format and purpose of your show is really kind of consistent, and that's why you're enjoying it so much, I would imagine. So that's really cool. So about me, I'm the founder of Castos. We're a podcast hosting and analytics platform. So we are the home base for podcasts, and we're the thing that stores and distributes podcasts and distributes them through places like Apple Podcasts and Spotify into your phones as you're listening to podcasts like this. We also give a bunch of analytics on kind of who's listening. We have some options around monetization from ads and donations and things like that. So our job is to really empower creators to create awesome content, hopefully make a little bit of money, and just kind of simplify the workflow of podcasting, because it is a really great medium, but it's pretty involved, right? Producing a show like this is not super simple. And so our job is to just simplify that as much as possible to allow you all to focus on creating awesome content, right? And then engaging with your audience, which is kind of the hallmark of creating a great podcast.
Yeah. Amen to that, because I'm going to tell you what, if I had to deal with all the technical stuff, I'd be pulling my hair out, man.
Yeah. And when we got started, there were a lot fewer options for good, easy to use pieces of software like ours. And I think that hopefully we're kind of enabling and empowering a lot of people to do this more easily than they could otherwise.
Yeah. Well, now I am really interested to ask. So I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of the listeners. So, Craig, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons that completely changed the course of your life or business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story, your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think that, it's always the best stuff before you hit record, right? But we were talking and you talked about kind of, this is the best thing you've ever done from like a professional perspective. And I said, I love to hear the stories of, because of my podcast, I've been able to X or Y.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like, I'll just say, like, the person that I met, his name is Rob Walling.
Okay.
He has owned SaaS companies before, a really popular email marketing solution called Drip. Sold it. Now he's on to run something called Tiny Seed, which Castos has been a part of. It's like a startup accelerator program. And he is a long-time podcaster, even before me. And that's how I got to know him originally, is his podcast is called Startups for the Rest of Us. And the concept of it is like, this is a startup podcast, but not for the Silicon Valley. Let's go raise $20 million and like either burn it down or get to $1 billion. But for folks like myself who want to like have a good business, we're ambitious, we want to do good. We want to provide for ourselves and our families and the people that work with us and stuff, but not go crazy and sacrifice our personal, kind of lives or physical or mental health as a result. And so Rob is just a fantastic dude, right? Super, super, super smart. Has run several really successful businesses. And so, my journey or my relationship with him has been as like a fan first. And I think that's really interesting how like folks start out like that. Like,
Yep.
I listened to his podcast back when I had a day job. And honestly, he was one of the people that inspired me to start my first like successful internet business, which was called Podcast Motor. We did, and we still do it inside Castos. We like do end-to-end podcast production for folks. So like, you record, send it to us, we do all the audio, all the video, show notes, transcripts, publish, right? So you record, send it to us, and we do everything else.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first business. Let me quit my job. My family and I, we traveled, we lived in Europe for 5 years, all this kind of stuff. Super amazing. I started Castos. We raised a little bit of money from Rob's next business, which is called Tiny Seed. That's the startup accelerator that I talked about. And that really like changed the trajectory of Castos, right? So it started out as kind of a side project or a hobby almost, and then like we got really serious about it because we had raised a little bit of money. We're like, ooh, we can do more things. We can take these developers and make them full-time. We can hire marketing people. We raised some more money about 2 years ago. And that was, another chance to kind of go big. And really, Rob has been instrumental in all of those things, right? So like, instrumental in introducing me to people who can help me in my kind of business journey, helped us raise some money, helped us hire some people. We were featured on one of his podcasts called Tiny Seed Tales, which was literally the story of us kind of growing the business over the course of like 10 episodes, which was super cool. And so like, the thing about people like that to me, and like, Rob, I hope you're listening, because I don't get a chance to tell you this to your face, because I just get embarrassed, is like they live the kind of life you want to live, right? They're here to serve the ecosystem and the people in it with zero expectation of any kind of return, right? It's just, hey, I'm a good human being. I want to be here to help other people. And it's just what I want to do. It's not like, hey, this is going to come around to me in some weird way in the end, but like, hey, I'm a good person. You're a good person. We could do cool things together. Yep. And I had never seen that before kind of getting into this ecosystem. And it's, wow, podcasting operates in here a little bit, but I think it's really rare. And I think we all who experience it take it for granted, because I'll tell you 100% in like my previous job, there is no one who will just help you out because they're a nice person. And I think that those of us who experience that in whatever kind of niche or industry we're in, and have people like Rob who are just genuinely really great people and want to help you out, should stop and thank them, like today, because they're really unique folks.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. This, I really can relate to what you're saying, because I've been blessed to be around some pretty dang generous people, pretty amazing entrepreneurs who helped me over the years and stuff. And I think of my very first connection in the business world 27 years ago was this guy Joe Polish, and
Oh,
he
wow.
was my
Yeah.
introduction to direct response marketing, when at the time I owned a cleaning and restoration company, and I was just trying to figure out how to make that business survive, and yet 27 years later, Joe and I are still like best friends. And not only that, so much has come from that one relationship with Joe,
Yeah. Yeah.
so much. And like, so I feel about Joe kind of like the way that you feel about Rob, same kind of thing. And it's yeah, I mean, and you're right, it can kind of get emotional, because we're just like, man, look at all that has come from this relationship, this one relationship. And it really puts
Yeah.
things in perspective for us and stuff. And
It does. And I think the cool thing about it is that there is something that we can do about that, right? So like, I can't give anything back to Rob, like my mentor, if you want to call him that in this case, but I can pay it forward to other people, right? And that's what and you're doing that through this show, right? And that's how I think about it is, someone did a really good thing for me. I probably can't directly repay them other than all the kind words in this show, but I can help someone else out. And that's what guides a lot of what I do, from like how we run our business, gosh, to how I am with my family, and my wife and my kids, to how I am in the kind of entrepreneurial community and creating, what is like a lot of content now on between, YouTube and podcasting, my blog and stuff like that. All for free. Like I have nothing to sell anyone other than like just good vibes, hopefully. Because that's like the most important thing. And then we all just are able to participate in this really supportive community. And that helps so many people in so many ways.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, usually I ask, what is an experience that's happened as a result of this relationship that where it's allowed you to make such a big impact that hands down would have never come without this relationship in place. But you've already kind of shared a lot, but still, I'm just curious. What do you see going forward? And what I mean, because I what I really try to drive home here on this podcast is, because as entrepreneurs, I have long believed that relationships are our most valuable asset. Everything else stems from that. And so, what's coming up next for you, Craig, as far as like, this relationship Rob's got, us here, what's next?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah. I mean, I think from kind of my core business perspective, we're very fortunate to be in a good spot. We're a growing, profitable, stable business, which I think is not something to discount. You talked about like your cleaning business and how you struggled to get that. And we spent 5 years not being profitable, and just recently became profitable and have a lot of sites to become more so. And so that's really good. And to be honest, like, there's been so much pressure on me as a founder to manage that for so long that I'm kind of just like, man, I need to just chill for a little bit. I need to like keep things going, keep the trains running, and basically just do what we're doing for a while. Because that's kind of the kind of emotional and mental energy that I have. And to supplement that, I'm actually spending a lot of time creating content, trying to give back a little bit of the things that I learned. And it's been a really good way for me to give back right to the community, and share what I know, and hopefully help other people who are maybe a step or two kind of behind where I am, if they're just getting started or they're at 10 or 20,000 a month or something like that. And like, hey, this is how I think about these things, or these are some mistakes I made. And I think that you talk about relationships, and that's really what I'm trying to accelerate, I guess, is the relationships I'm building with folks, and kind of a one-to-many way, so that then in the future I can build really strong one-to-one relationships. So like I guess you could call it like branding, like personal and like business branding is probably the thing that I'm focused most on right now, because what I find is like when you get on the phone with a Joe Polish, like, yeah, I know Joe's name. Like, I don't know Joe, but like if I was able to get on a call with him, it'd like instantly be he would have like the upper hand, right? Like I know him, I know of the Genius Network, I know of all the stuff he does, and kind of like how great all that is. And so like he has such an advantage in kind of everything he does. And I'm trying to like create some of that through a whole bunch of goodwill, hopefully, and just giving as much as I can to the community, both like the entrepreneurial community and the podcasting community. And there's a ton of overlap, right? There's probably the single biggest kind of audience cohort of podcasting is entrepreneurs, and they're my people. So like I just love talking about all of this stuff that we do, and it has like a really good business purpose, right? Because like hopefully a lot of people that kind of know of me will check out Castos and sign up as a result. So that's kind of where I am. The business is running like pretty well, and we're growing, and that's awesome. And I haven't taken time to market myself. And I think that's a lot of people are scared of it, and me included. I mean, I've been podcasting a ton of like 500 episodes, but aside from that, like I haven't done a lot of other kinds of content, and it's pretty scary to put yourself like on YouTube and stuff like that, and write long form blog posts and newsletters and stuff like that. But I got a lot I want to say, and I think some of it's valuable. So putting it out there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, I, for one, man, I'll tell you, Craig, I am so glad that I reached out to you. I'm so glad that we got to have this conversation today. I mean, this
Likewise.
is the first time you and I have ever spoken is right here, right now. And yet I just gotta acknowledge it. I totally love the way that you show up, man. You just have a heart. You are just this giving guy who wants to make an impact in this world, who is making an impact and wants to make a bigger impact, And so kudos to you. And so for anybody listening to this that's going, dang, Kev, I'm with you. I like this Craig guy. How can they find out more about, I mean, you got, Castos, but yeah, how can they find out more about what you're doing? And can they connect with you on social media at all? I mean, how can
for sure. For sure. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on. It's really awesome pleasure to come on and chat. And I just love the concept of your show here, and you're doing a great job with it. So kudos to you for sure. For folks who want to check out what we're doing, castos.com, castos.com, kind of like anything you need podcasting, we'd love to chat. If folks want to connect with me, I'm on Twitter at the Craig Hewitt. I'm on LinkedIn. You can check out my blog at craighewitt.me. But yeah, we'd love to connect. And thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any last thing you feel led to share before we call it a wrap, Craig?
I think that like the whole premise of this show is obviously like relationships. And I think we all probably go through the day just not really thinking about how some potentially like small interactions we have with folks could make a big impact. And I'm reminding myself not to forget that as a result of this, so like, especially with folks who are, again, kind of maybe a couple steps behind where you are. Like if you can help them out, it can really transform their path. And so I would just encourage all of us to keep that in mind, because we're all, one or two steps ahead of someone else in certain ways. And so I think we have a big chance to have a positive impact on folks. And this is a really good reminder of that.
We definitely do. You are so right. I mean, and you're right. It all comes back, maybe not from the person that we gave to, maybe not directly from the person that we helped, but it all comes back. And when we can just show up ready to contribute, help, serve, pour into others without any expectation of anything in return, we end up getting so much in return. We give, but we also get to receive too. We get to be on both sides of that equation. And it took me a long time in my life to figure that out.
Yeah, likewise. I think we all start out a little selfish, I think, and then we get smart the hard way sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Craig, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate you coming on today and sharing from your heart. And thanks so much.
Thanks, Kevin.